7. Thank you. Anna, let's do a roll call here. Start Casey Atkins present, Paul Bohm.
Paul Bohm, present.
Mr. Peter Funkhauser.
Pete Funkhauser is here, yes.
Okay. For other staff, do you guys just want to announce who you are, that you're here?
Anna McEwen, Recreation Director, present.
Adam
Connie
LaPointe.
Levine, neighbor.
Thank you, Ms. Levine. We're just going to go around with staff and have Matt Johnson also introduce himself, and then we will just have you introduce yourself as a member of the public.
Oh, okay, great.
Thanks.
Jim.
So my name is Adam LaPointe, Assistant Recreation Director.
And then Matt and Amrith, I missed the two of you early on. Matt, do you want to just?
Sure, I'm Matt Johnson, Select Board Liaison.
And Amrit, FinCom Liaison.
Thank you. And Jim, I just need you roll call for you, Mr. Jim Howard.
Hello, Jim Howard,
Present. Awesome.
Commission member.
Okay. And Ms. Levine, you're a member of the public.
Yes,
Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Andy Dutton present, General Manager of the Beatty Center.
Thank you, Andy. All of my Brady Bunch squares were moving around on me. Thank you for catching that. Okay, Anna, do you want to kick us off with the agenda?
Sure. So let me admit Jen here. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our November 2nd, 2021 meeting. Everybody get those?
Yes,
Thank you, Andy, for sending those out. Does anyone need a moment to review them? Okay, I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Can I
I
get a
second.
Thank you. Roll call, Casey Atkins, Pete Funkhauser.
Yes,
Sorry, Casey Atkins, yes. Paul Bohm,
Yes.
Jim Howard.
Yes,
Excellent. Okay. And is Jen in the,
It says she's joining. I don't know what's going on. Here she is again.
we'll just double back and see if she has anything, any concerns about the minutes, but we do have a quorum and we will move forward. Okay, next up we have the appointments, which is pretty straightforward and it's listed in the agenda. That brings us to number 3, summer camp cost comparative analysis.
Yep, Adam's going to oversee that one.
Okay,
Yep, so I took some time after my first week on the job, getting a new thing to do, which was awesome. So what I did was, I know there was discussions with us increasing our weekly price of enrollment for our summer camp by $10 a week. We were asked about, what other areas did with minimum wage and stuff. So what I'm going to do is, I think I can share my screen. Let me just make sure I can. Okay, perfect. Share my screen.
Casey, in the meantime, should we acknowledge that Jen Lutz has joined us?
Hi, sorry I'm late.
thank you. I'm sorry, I was multitasking. Paul, thank you for noting that. And Andy, do you have the time in the minutes here of Jen Lutz's arrival?
Yes, I do. I got it at 7:02.
Awesome. Thank you. Sorry, Adam, go ahead.
No problem. So typically in the past, when I've done comparative analysis for any of our programs in regards to childcare, is we typically tend to look at the price per hour. We want to kind of have an idea of if a parent's going to sign their child up for camp, would camp be a better option because they don't have to pay a babysitter $20 to $30 an hour. So on your screen, you should see what I did was I did some digging and looked up a couple of local area organizations that offer summer camp and compared it to what we offer in regards to age range. There might be some discrepancy in regards to what exactly is offered. Like, for example, the umbrella organization, which is down the street from us, they offer typically art-specific programming. But this kind of gives you an idea of, if you look in the price per hour column, we are down at the bottom based on our rates for this summer, our hourly rate. So if you look at that comparatively between the other organizations that offer similar programming to us, we are anywhere between 1.5 to 2 times less per hour than those programs. So I just kind of wanted to show that. And then also I did send an email out to all the recreation directors throughout the state to get some feedback on what they were doing in regards to the minimum wage increase and raising rates. So kind of the 3 takeaways I got from that was, one, even with our increase per week, our camp prices are still very competitive. The rec departments around the state have increased between 3 to 6% this year due to the minimum wage increase. Ours is 3%. So we're kind of on the lower end of the rec departments in the state in regards to increasing. Some towns actually raised their rates for camp a couple of years ago when Baker had made the announcement that he was going to increase progressively to $15 an hour, just so there was one flat increase, a couple of years ago. So that was something interesting I saw. Then obviously in the yellow, some of our programs haven't even made the decision yet to give us the fees yet based on the minimum wage increase. So that's kind of the research that I did. I don't know if anybody has any particular questions about it that I can answer, but I'm more than happy to kind of break things down a little bit more if it doesn't make sense.
Adam, this is Pete speaking. As
Yep.
I recollect from the financial figures that we saw a few meetings ago, the summer camp program is one of the more profitable things that the rec department runs. That's true, right?
Correct. Yeah, that and our childcare program, school age and stuff.
Right, that childcare and summer camp. So it's not like this operation is losing money or
Yeah, no, exactly. Yep.
a drain on us at all. On the contrary.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Adam, first of all, I think this is great. Thanks for doing this. I have a question. How should we look at this? We can look at the numbers, the program's a little bit different. Is there some way to judge whether we are charging the right amounts, providing equal value, more value? Is there some way of looking at this?
In regards to what exactly? Because
okay, so I'm looking at a number, price per hour for the I guess 1 through 8. So we're $9.57 versus others are twice as high. The programs aren't the same. There's more or less offered. I mean, is that how do we know if that's the right number? Or from a customer point of view, I think these look great. From a provider or revenue point of view, is there opportunity here? I just don't know.
I mean, I guess based on what the organizations that I was able to look at, the ones that offered summer camp, the programs are very similar in regards to what they offer. Obviously, there might be some small discrepancies in what physical facilities they offer, but they're basically, though these price per hours and where I got this data was based on what was the closest in comparison in regards to what our program offers to what is on here. Obviously we're kind of an anomaly that we have such an amazing amount of space right at Emerson for us to use for camp. But there are some, for example, Thorough Club's got a large facility with outdoor pools and a bunch of other opportunities. But that's kind of where I came from. And also, in any rec department, even in Westboro, we try to keep our costs low so that it's attractive to the community regardless of the ability to pay. And I think it's the biggest thing that I took from this overall is, we try to keep our prices profitable, but yet also accessible to anybody who wants to do our programs.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to speak to. So the year that I started, 2016, we cut our camp prices in half. The registrations that we were getting at that point in time were not great. So Kate Hodges and the director at the time made the decision to cut fees practically by 50%. And since then, we've seen a significant increase in registration. So I think the biggest piece and the biggest takeaway in looking at this chart, and Adam, this is really great, is that again, we are setting ourselves aside in a way that allows parents who need to make a decision based on financial capabilities to have a program that's affordable, that's local, that's municipal, compared to some of these other programs, which are all really, other than Umbrella and Lincoln Parks and Rec, they're all private organizations. So the offerings at Concord Academy or Summer at Fenn, I think they used to offer busing at those locations too, like drop-off busing, just a very different service. So while we are coming in significantly lower, I think it's a benefit for us in many ways to look at it in that aspect.
Anna, are there families in Concord who cannot afford to send their children to this program?
Yes. So pre-pandemic, we were awarding about $60,000 in financial assistance for summer camp. Interestingly, the last 2 years, our applications have gone down significantly. You know, we could assume that that's because one, parents might not be as comfortable sending their kids back to camp yet, or two, they are working from home and they don't need to spend the money on childcare anymore.
Right.
Right now, last summer, I want to say we awarded about $6,000. So again, significantly less than in years past, but we continue to work with the town social worker and human services department to make sure that families are aware of what we can provide.
Anna, if I can also point out, you know, the shift that happened when you arrived is significant. So the camps have been running for decades. I went to this camp when I was a kid, and this is your sort of traditional summer camp setup. You have a mix of outdoor activities, sports, crafts, other types of things. And some of these are specifically sport related. So some of the Fenn camps, certainly the TeamWorks camps, but this is sort of your traditional setup. In addition to that, when Anna came on, she really breathed new life into the programs and made them more diverse and inclusive. So I would say that one of the unique things about the camp is also that it incorporates a broader range of students. So if you have a student who's on an IEP, even an individual education plan, a complex one or a minimal support one, there's a partnership between the summer school with the Concord public school system and the recreation department, where students are picked up from summer school, or there's a drop-off situation, and then they do their afternoon with the camp. And then even if they're not doing summer school, they're still supported with the camp. So I say all this in terms of Anna's done a wonderful job of revamping the summer camp experience for the community, but also that this is a community resource that I think we want to make it accessible, both in terms of the services for students and the price point for parents. And Anna, thanks for giving that piece of information on what the scholarships have looked like. I think that's been a key thing that has carried over and really been an ethos for the Concord Recreation Department back when Danner did this, when he was the former director, just making sure that families that wanted to be part of it could be part of it, which is certainly a key piece here. So I think Adam's research that shows that we'd just be looking at a 3% max. It had been slashed in half when Anna came on in 2016, I think shows a reasonable, in my point of view, uptick on how we want to stay at pace with these other camps in terms of price, where we're not underselling, we're not overselling, but we're staying with this gap that makes sense in terms of what they're charging and where we are, but still being accessible to families who need support. So I look at this and see a $10 price increase as both reasonable and staying pace, but also staying affordable and accessible.
So
Yeah,
what we would, go ahead, Paul.
No, and I agree with everything there. So my question is that I haven't seen a comparative analysis like this, so this is very, very helpful. I'm not at all doubting whether we're charging the right thing. I'm just trying to dig into this because one of the things the commission is supposed to do is advise you on, these matters. So I'm just trying to understand. So when it comes to, so it comes to profitability, and we're not a bit of that, but we are profitable. Is when you establish these fees, is there a target? Is it just a break-even target? A certain profitability? What is the metric? Of course, you have the cost side of this. You have salaries to pay as well.
Right.
So when you set pricing, yes, there's an affordability in the community, but is there a target for profitability where we can pay people the right amount and balance
Sure.
this? What's the strategy?
Yeah. So I don't have a specific percentage that we shoot for year after year when we set our numbers. We really, in the last couple of years have had to base what we're hopeful for in terms of a net due to COVID with group size allowability. So for 2020, we were required to have significantly smaller groups, which required us to really, trim the low hanging fruit of expenses, staff. We bagged field trips, everything. This past summer, the regulations were lifted more. We were allowed to increase our group sizes. We didn't max them out, but it did require more staff. We did not do field trips, things of that nature. So the last 2 years have had a reasonable net. I would say this summer, we're expecting a very strong return, and we'll be looking for about a 50% profit off of total revenue less expenses. So again, that's not necessarily a precursor for how we budget it year after year. We look at a lot of different things: inflation, bus costs, field trip expenses, quantity of field trips, and we want to prioritize the quality of the program before we prioritize the net revenue in our pockets, and that'll continue to be our priority, but it's looking like about 50% net revenue.
That's great. Thanks for that.
That's a great point, though, that you have, Paul, in terms of looking at, what the targets are for profitability and keeping an eye on that as sort of a metric to follow. That's a good point.
Yeah, and with Adam here now, we are working hard to put some more tangible numbers and percentages to all budget areas. So this is one that we'll dig into more and look back at the trends from the past couple of years, and look ahead to try and better define that target.
Yeah, and just last question on this. Are we competing for staff effectively? The other part of this equation is costs and salaries. Are we finding that we can compete effectively?
So there's 2 points to that. So we tend to have a great return rate on staff, which is really positive. We get a lot of Concord residents working for us for their entire high school tenure, which we have really loyal campers and then really loyal staff. With that said, with minimum wage continuing to rise and other programs potentially being more profitable and being able to increase minimum rates for a counselor, we are again concerned that we're going to be hiring in the 12th inning like we had to do last summer. So one of the things we'll talk about tonight a little bit is the personnel board, and thankfully last night they approved minimum wage to increase to $14.25 as it will in the state in January. So we will at least be able to offer minimum wage to our staff, which is great. But you look at Dunkin' Donuts or a store and they're paying 16-year-olds $18 an hour. So where Concord Recreation really comes into play is selling the joy and selling the wellness and selling the community that comes with summer camp. And because of that, we have been able to fully staff our needs, but it continues to be a struggle, especially for the higher end positions. We couldn't find a nurse last summer, things like that. So we'll see what this summer brings, but it's been difficult.
Just a quick comment. For people you would hire for the summer, through Concord Rec, are they offered any kind of perks that would offset, like working at Dunkin' Donuts, you get $18 an hour, but you work for Concord Rec and maybe you get some discount at the BD or some kind of like program or something like that?
Yeah. No, we don't have any sort of incentive like that. One of the things that I did last night with the personnel board was propose some new incentive programs for some of our year-round positions, but currently, no, we don't have any sort of incentive to sign on with us. We do, however, have a merit scale. So for staff that come back year after year, there is a standard incremental increase for, you know, loyalty and things like that. So whether they're a counselor summer 1 and still a counselor in summer 2, they'd be receiving an increase summer 2 for that same position if they had a good evaluation. So something we could explore. We've had some questions about memberships to BD, and we haven't necessarily gone that route, but it's something that we're willing to explore if need be.
That's a great point, Jen. And I love the idea of incorporating like a BD pass into it.
Mm-hmm.
What are the next steps, Anna?
So what we'd like to do tonight, again, like Paul mentioned, it's really helpful for you all to be part of these conversations when rates are increasing. You don't have to be the end all though. So what I instead of voting a full-blown yes, we would like to have a vote of support that we can then send to the town manager. So if there are questions down the road, people understand that we went through a process and an evaluation with this committee that ultimately agreed that $10 would be reasonable. So a vote of support.
Great. Do any other commission folks have questions?
I move that we provide a vote of support for the $10 increase.
I second it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I'll do a roll call on the vote. Casey Atkins, yes. Paul Bohm,
Yes.
Pete Funkhauser,
Yes.
Jen Lutz,
Yes.
Jim Howard.
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Adam, for the presentation. That was really helpful. Great work. I would like to just step out of our agenda, just move something around in our agenda real quick. We have some members of the public here, and I actually meant to do this at the top of the call. My apologies. I would like to move public input to our next agenda bullet. Matt, you're almost our parliamentarian here. Do we need a commission vote to move?
No, I think that it's fine. You can just ask, you know, the committee if they want to take it out of order, and if so, we're fine. Yeah.
Okay. Is everybody okay with taking public comment out of order?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. We have some folks on the call, some abutters to Emerson Field. Connie and Deb, would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yes, Connie, I guess I'm going first. Although Connie, you've been here longer than me, so perhaps you should go first.
No, you can go first.
If you could just state your name and your address to start, that would be helpful.
Okay, well, I guess I'm on the floor then. It's Deb Welch. I'm at 141 Stowe Street. And first of all, I'm just here to thank everybody in the town for moving quickly to remove the beginnings of the baseball scoreboard, which was directly in front of my house. You know, looking out onto the park, which I've always enjoyed, a beautiful, open, expansive view of Emerson Field, and have enjoyed that for 26 years. So I just want to say thank you so much for listening to us, and I'm very appreciative of that. And I guess the other thing I would just like, and thank you for your work on behalf of the town. I know it takes a lot of time out of your personal lives to do this, so thank you. And then I just have, I guess, a comment. Casey has graciously offered to walk the Emerson Field with a few of the neighbors, which hopefully we can set up a time to do so. And I think we can all learn from each other in terms of what we value most about Emerson Field and what we hope to preserve. And I guess, it's just a balance between development for recreational activities and expansion and that sort of thing. And also the open nature of the field, which is something that I think a lot of the neighbors really value highly, but also quite a few people in town and also people from outside the town who come to enjoy that space as well. So I'm just hoping that we can work, collaboratively and cooperatively going forward, and want to emphasize again, thanks so much for listening and reacting quickly to concerns. I'll kick it over to you, Connie.
Yes, my name's Connie Levine. I live at 149 Stowe Street next to Deb. And I've lived there 32 years. And the sign, this scoreboard was also impacting my house. It would have impacted my house. And, basically the park is my front lawn. When I look out my window, I don't see my lawn, I see the park. So it was quite shocking that something like that was going up. We had no notification of that. And we also, moreover, had really never got any abutter notification of the Emerson Improvement Project. And, we saw it was being made handicapped accessible and figured, well, that's maybe something that was, required by law. And, so, but then when, this scoreboard went up, and we looked into the Emerson Improvement Project, got the community preservation application from 2019. We saw that there was a whole list of things on there that would have been a real problem for us, such as a dugout with metal roofs, all kinds of netting, padded bleacher seats, things like that. Because the way we look at it is, it's a natural playground. It's not, I think the proposal had said it was a complex. Well, it's not a complex, it's a playground. And, it's comprised of, it's a fairly small playground when you actually look at it. And it's a lot crammed in there. But we feel that keeping the natural look of it is very important, not only to us, but to the town, because, it was given by the Emerson family and some other places. And when you look back at their maps, it was a very simple operation. And we would not want to see anyone try to turn this into something like a stadium with dugouts and stuff like that. That's really appalling to us. And so we spoke to Henry Dane, who lives on Everett Street, and Kate. He referred me to Kate also. She was very helpful. And Anna, I spoke to Anna. She was very helpful. And everyone was able to, and Aaron from the DPW. And we worked out, moving it to the first baseline, which I think was Henry's idea. Still don't know what it's going to look like over there, but at least it's not right in our front lawns anymore. But we did talk at length with Aaron about these other things, like the dugouts and things like that we would not support. And he said that none of that is going forward. There's no funding for it, and they're not seeking to do that anymore. So we would like to get a commitment from this committee that that's the case, because otherwise we're definitely going to have issues if something like that is intended to be done over there at the playground.
You ready? Okay. Hello.
Oops.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, good.
Thank you. My wife Carol is going to say everything.
I'm Carol Saracen. This is my husband, Ernie. We also live right on Stowe Street, next to Connie, next to Deb. We've been here.
Would you mind just stating your address for our minutes?
Oh, of course. We live at 155 Stowe Street, Concord, Massachusetts. Good?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And actually, I think both Deb and Connie have just summed up everything I could possibly say. So I really have very little to add, except for the fact, a couple of things. We have noticed unbelievable changes in Emerson Field in the last 26 years. And, you know, I think Emerson Field was always intended to be a green open space. And so much of that has been lost. And just the other day, well, actually any day, about 3:30 in the afternoon, you can see a lot of people over there with their dogs, a lot of kids who've come from the various schools, all trying to play. They're now sort of crammed against the fence and against the middle tree line of the park because so much of the green space is just leaving. And I know this scoreboard isn't a huge thing, but it's just one more thing that gets put in a open field, a space that frankly, it didn't need the scoreboard. I don't think it benefits most of the people of Concord. And I think things like this are unfortunate. And I mean, I'm very grateful for everything that Kate and Aaron and, you know, all the people we've talked to did to help us remedy this situation. But, you know, it's a little scary that this entire proposal for dugouts with metal roofs and bleachers and all these things would even be considered in a park that's already been diminished so much. I think it's a little frightening. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you all so much for being on the call and for your correspondence regarding this matter. I would like to just kick it over to Anna to give some context. Paul, did you have something that you wanted to add?
Well, maybe Anna can answer the question. So I'm asking this question because I'm the current representative of the commission on the CPC. And there was CPC funding, I guess, several years ago that you're referring to. So the question for Anna, has that CPC funding application been withdrawn or modified or changed? I'm trying to catch up here, everyone. So that's why I asked the question.
So what's confusing to a lot of people is you look at the park and you look at the sorts of amenities there and you assume that the park is managed by the recreation department. Many communities are parks and recreation. We are not. Concord is just a recreation department and the parks are managed, facilitated, maintained by Public Works. So the Public Works department is the one that submitted those CPC applications that you're referring to. I know that there was, just through being on the calls, multiple years that they submitted for funding and then held the funding and finally was able to implement the plans just with inflation and cost of things. So I don't know what's left of their funds or their plans necessarily. We haven't been involved with the facilitation of the project management there. Oop, Deb, you're muted.
Unmute. If I could just ask a quick question, I'm just curious about the process here. Like, I was surprised that the Concord Public Works was in a position to make proposals. I thought that that would have come from a different part of the workings of Concord government and that they were simply the implementers. But so I've got something wrong here about the process, or I guess I just don't understand the process. That looked like a big thing that happened, completely went over my head. I don't know if it was presented and discussed at town meeting or if it was voted on at the voting booth. It was a total surprise to me and I live right here. So can you just fill us in on what the process was?
Sure, and Paul, you might be able to speak to some of the steps, but ultimately the way the CPC works and the reason why Public Works, as far as I could assume and understand, submitted the application, the work that they did, well, you do see some of it on the surface, there was a lot of underground work that had to be fixed. We've had ongoing issues with the sprinkler system and the wells at Emerson Park. And those sorts of things are certainly pieces that Public Works maintains, oversees, and manages when broke, and they were breaking a lot, wasting a lot of water. So a large part of the project had to do with that. The other large piece, like I believe Connie mentioned, was the installation of the accessible pathway throughout the park. They reskinned the baseball 2 field, which is closer to Thoreau Street, and turned it into a softball field. And then they resurfaced the Emerson playground to be a port-in-place surface that's more accessible and safer for kids that use the playground. So those are the largest pieces of the project that you've seen. And again, those are all managed and maintained by Public Works.
Okay, I understand maintenance. I don't want to hog this here, but I understand maintenance, but installing pathways is a new initiative. So how did that come about? Was that required by the state?
I can't speak to that. That would be something you'd want to talk with Aaron and his team about.
Well, let me just explain. So I'm a representative on the CPC, which is a Community Preservation Committee, and we help administer funds that are authorized by the state under the that enables communities by town approval to have certain amounts of funding for various categories: open space, recreation, historic preservation, community housing. Each year, their applications submitted, and there's a schedule submitted to the committee, and the applications are usually submitted by a town department or an individual with town approval category. So I don't know the history of this one, but there was an application submitted that went through a process which included public meetings. It included review by the select board. It included approval at the town meeting. So this went through several approval processes. Public comment and involvement is really very helpful. Sometimes the public isn't aware of that process, and I think maybe we have a little challenge to make that whole process a little bit more knowledgeable. It's an open process, but like a lot of things in town, not everybody knows about it. So this is a very transparent process that created the situation that you're thinking on.
Well, I talked to Aaron. I talked to Aaron, and he did not, in the past, whenever some project was proposed at Emerson, we got an abutter notification letter from the town because, obviously we live across from this field. But this time, Aaron did not submit this. It was actually Rich Rain that did the application. He's no longer here. And Aaron didn't know why or if we were supposed to be notified. He didn't really know the process for getting the abutter letters out or whether they were required. And so I'm trying to find that out. I've called, there was nothing on file with the planning board. This is a big project. It was budgeted at $1.9 million according to this thing. And yet there's no planning. The planning board was not involved in any way, shape, or form with it, which is unusual. Most of the time, the first place you go if you're looking into some kind of a townwide project is the planning board. And that is the first place I went, and they had nothing on it. And they referred me to Kate Hodges, who I did talk to. But I think that's something we have to get working again, because, had we known about this, I used to be on the CPC myself. I served on that when I was the Housing Authority representative. So I know how that works. And they're, according to what I found out from the town, I guess they're not responsible. They're a funding organization, so they're not the ones responsible for abutter letters, they said, which makes some sense. But in this case, you know, if butter letters had gone out, believe me, there would have been a lot of people showing up at these meetings that weren't showing up because they weren't notified. And so that's a big problem that has to be straightened out. And I wonder, like, were these people in the DPW coming up with these dugout ideas? I mean, where were these ideas coming from if it wasn't coming from the rec department?
All right, I see that Matt Johnson has his hand up and I just want to give him an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, I thought I should just speak to the notion of a butter notification. So, typically abutters are notified in the case of a site plan review by the planning board or a special permit application in front of the zoning board of appeals. And, in this case, neither of those was required for the scope of the project that was developed here. So if you look at section 11.8 of our zoning bylaw, the site plan review is really about the construction or modification of a building or changes in parking or loading or vehicular access. It's not about providing those bits of infrastructure that were in the scope of this project. So I don't think legally there was any requirement here. I do agree that it would be a best practice to notify the neighbors of a substantial project, but I should also say that the Community Preservation Committee process is a very rigorous and public process. And, they vet the projects over the course of a year. And so it's not like this happened in the dead of night. I don't know what else to say, but I think that the procedures have been followed here. It's not like that this was some secret project.
Yeah, I think that, the difference though, of course, is you had the whole COVID thing. So people weren't normally going to meetings that they might have otherwise gone to if, if any of the places had been open to the public. So it should be, and when Kate did her research, Kate Hodges, she said the only notification she could find about this project was either in the newspaper or in emails to people. So that pretty much confirmed that there was no abutter notification.
Well, the project was listed among the projects, I mean, not this specific scoreboard project, but the overall project for Emerson Field was part of the town meeting warrant, right? It was listed among the projects that were in the town meeting warrant. And I should also say that while people weren't meeting in person, that we actually found an uptick in public attendance at meetings via Zoom, during the COVID pandemic for our town boards and committees.
But none of those are a substitution for a butter notification in a case like this, because, you look at the, the town warrant thing, you go to some meetings, but, that should never take the place of something that affects an abutter, a big project like this, a $1.9 million project with no consulting the neighborhood or the abutters, that's crazy. That's just plain crazy. It's bad communication. It's bad for the town. It's bad for the project because that's, you have to figure out ways to prevent problems from coming up. Well, something like not notifying people, that's a huge way of not preventing problems because things come up out of the blue and you don't tell people about them. You don't call it to their attention. If I get a letter in the mail, I get letters from the rec department about horse rides up the street, and then I don't get a letter about a $1.9 million project. That's crazy.
You bring up a very good point, and thank you, Matt, for explaining the process and the legalities. I do see that Mr. Sarensen has something to say, so I'd like to just.
Yes, and I'll be very brief. Thank you so much. I think what this conversation, this discussion is illustrated, and it's really interesting that there's so many players, there's so many rules, there are regulations and ordinances and so forth, and processes and everything else. But in the final analysis, there is no one who is responsible for Emerson Field, which is a unique precious green space that Concord must preserve. And I think there should be some mechanism by which nothing happens to that field unless the people responsible for the field give it its approval. Thank you very much, Ms. Atkins.
Thank you all for being here. I'd like to just pull out some of the points that I'm hearing right now and make sure that I'm just sort of recapping the conversation. So there's two separate things. One, just to give sort of some bigger context, there was a scoreboard that the Recreation Commission, along with several other commissions, approved for an Eagle Scout project. That has been addressed in terms of moving to the first baseline. This is part of a larger conversation where a piece of this has to do with the improvements to Emerson Field, which were approved through a prior year Community Preservation Act funding that was done in concert with Public Works and other entities. With that specific piece and with the signage, the concern from abutters at Emerson Field is the lack of communication earlier in the process rather than necessarily the formal legal process of review at town warrant. And once things get to a formal proposal stage, you're looking for something earlier in the process to be able to give feedback, whether it is required by law or not, is a best practice, especially with a community asset such as Emerson Field. For those who are joining us from the public, does that sort of encapsulate this a bit?
Yes, the lack of the notification, which we have always received on things
Yes.
like when they wanted to put a bandstand over there, we got a
Yep.
notice. When they wanted to put a teen drop-in center, we got a
Yes.
notice. So
Thank
here's
you.
something much bigger that we didn't get a notice on, and we don't understand why not.
And
Yeah,
thank you.
those were buildings, those were structures. So
So thank you for pointing out those examples. And I just like to, Paul, do you have something to add?
I do. I have an important takeaway from this. I really think your comments are well placed, and I'm going to take back to the CPC after we get through this round of applications, a way to maybe improve the process a bit. But I will say that there's a lot of notification. We just had a public meeting on this year's projects, applications, some of which are quite controversial. And we've had a big public turnout and a lot of debate. Now, is it perfect? No, but you know, I think there may be better ways. I think to Matt's point, there isn't any legal abutter notice here, but I think, you know, there's I think ample opportunity for CPC to reach out and let people know that the process is in motion and they ought to pay attention.
And I
And
will
ask the applicant if they have notified the abutters. You could build that into the CPC to make sure that people know about it, you know? Because without the abutter notification, there's no official notification of people, and that's what's lacking.
I appreciate that point, Miss Levine. I do want to be mindful, just we have a bunch of other agenda items and I
Right,
wanted to
right.
hit.
Yeah, I think we've made our points now known, and you know, we appreciate the opportunity. It's important
Absolutely.
to us, you know.
And
It's all about communication. If you communicate with people, things can work out. If you don't communicate with people, you're going to have problems.
I appreciate that. And to that end, I'll wrap this up by saying I look forward to communicating with you folks on a time to walk Emerson Field. I would invite other commission members. However, we would then dabble in a tricky issue with quorums and having to announce a public meeting. So I look forward to reporting this back to the rest of the commission members and to Anna and others from our conversations with the walking tour. And I'll be in touch with some days and times next week to do so.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commission members and staff, thank you for taking that out of order. I'd like to resume the rest of our business. Anna, our next item, if you can, I've got to toggle back and forth between.
The annual report presentation.
Excellent.
Let me pull that up.
I'd like to point out, Paul, you had a great comment about adding the strategic plan in here. Would you like to expand on that?
You're asking me, I'm sorry.
you sent an email comment.
Yeah,
and
no.
I didn't have a chance to read it in full.
So I think over the last year, the initiation of the strategic planning process, the commission discussion, the formation of the subcommittee leading to the CPC application to hire a consultant, I think that should be briefly in the annual report, because I think that's an activity that is going to be carried forward into the coming years. I think it's not going to start happening until next year, but I gave you a little bit of yeah, there it is.
Yep.
You can use that language or not, if you all want to read it.
Is there, in thinking of how it's been submitted in the past with, consistent sections, we'll call them awards, leadership, recognition of service, things like that. Perhaps there's a new section that the commission would be interested in adding to this year's report and future reports that speaks to
Initiative, maybe.
Yeah, new initiatives or something to that end. Would that make sense to you all?
Yeah, I do think, and maybe there'll be others in the future. I have a feeling the strategic planning process, as it evolves over the next year or so, is going to be its little section as we comment on it. But I think my point here is, and you'll have to revise it. Yeah, this was an email to you.
Yeah,
I think just that the process has begun, and it's led to a CPC application that Anna submitted, and if approved, process will begin. That's all.
I think that's great. Paul, thank you for that catch.
So if the gist of that works, Casey, we could, if everybody thinks that this sort of information we can formalize, into a couple better sentences. But if this works for everybody, I can send it to you, Casey, later, and we can adjust it, and then you all will submit it for the annual report this year. But you would need a vote.
Yes. Anna, do you mind just scrolling up quickly? Can we put the initiatives or new initiatives?
Go before awards?
Yes. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know I sent this out just a few hours before our meeting. Do the commission members need more time to review? And are there any other comments or questions?
Well, I do agree this wording is probably needs some work, but
Yeah.
it just is there. It's hard to convert an email into reasonable text.
Printed professional book text.
If everyone is okay with the gist of that. Yep.
Would it be possible to send a copy to me? I don't believe I got one. So
I believe I did. I have two email addresses for you. It was your Amrith at.
I'll go search there. Okay.
Okay, I can send another one.
That would be great if you, whenever you get a chance. Thank you.
So Amrith, what might be helpful is if everyone's comfortable with the gist of Paul's sentence and it can be cleaned up, we can vote to approve it, and then I can send a final copy.
Thank you. That'd be great.
Yes.
Okay. So I would like to vote to approve the annual report.
Sorry. Don't know what happened there.
That's okay. Vote to approve the annual report letter from the commission. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, roll call. Casey Atkins, yes. Jen Lutz,
Yes.
Jim Howard,
Jim Howard, yes.
Pete Funkhauser,
Yes.
Paul Bohm.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we can fine tune the language on that. Anna, specifically the submission process, can you just remind me
Sure.
of that?
So right now, the tentative due date is January 14th. So there certainly is time if you all felt like you needed to do anything else with it. But it will get emailed to the public information officer, Erin Stevens. She'll notify the recreation department of the submission dates. And in the past, I think we've just notified the chair and submitted, in a shared email to the public information officer. So it's a pretty simple process.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Moving on to our next agenda item, we have Personnel Board, help wanted.
Help wanted, exactly. So as I mentioned in an email a week or two ago, the Personnel Board is a really imperative group of folks, especially when it comes to some topics we've already talked about tonight, including the ability to increase the miscellaneous compensation schedule, minimum wages, adding new positions mid-year, adjusting salary ranges, things of that nature. And the committee itself has had a hard time finding new members. They only have 3 members right now, and it's been very difficult for them to find quorum at meetings, which has really delayed and pushed out the ability for many departments, including recreation, to make progress on new initiatives. So thankfully, we met with the Personnel Board last night. They approved the minimum wage increase starting January 1 to $14.25, which will be very helpful as we begin to advertise our camp jobs. And they also heard from us about some incentive programs that we're hoping to implement, primarily for group fitness, aquatics fitness, and personal training. So, without this committee right now, we would not be able to put any of these initiatives forward, which ultimately are imperative in order for us to continue our operation. So if you know of anybody that is looking to commit some time to the community, to the town, and be part of a really great group of people, please direct them to the Personnel Board. They could use another body or two. So
And it would be great if you or Adam wouldn't mind sending another, I know you did send this out before, but if you could send to the commission and the liaisons here that information and how to reach the Personnel Board. And
Sure.
We can send it to our, send it out. It should be noted that people can serve on more than one board and commission. Is that correct?
As far as I understand.
It depends. Amrith, is that what you're saying?
FinCom, I cannot.
No, you can't, but I would say other recreation members can serve on the Personnel Board as well, I believe. Or Matt, again, parliamentarian and
Not usually. We have this APP 10 policy for the town that says that board and committee members, unless the charter of the committee states otherwise, can't serve on more than one board or committee.
okay. So there's a difference between being a liaison and serving on certain committees.
Yeah, liaisons, unfortunately, I can be a liaison to 11 committees.
And
Yes.
you are. So
And I was going to say, I think you are.
Yeah.
Your nights are packed.
Okay, so that's a helpful little nugget to have. So thank you, Adam, Anna. That would be helpful to have sent out.
Sure.
Moving on, I would love to get to number 6 here, recreation concepts. Paul has some great ideas. I'm going to turn the floor over to
Yeah, so I sent the message. I don't want to take a lot of time here, and I'm not sure how great the ideas are, but let me just tell you what's sort of been on my mind. And again, I don't want to belabor this because I think it makes to start a conversation amongst the commission. Ever since I was involved in the NMI StarMet reuse and looked around the town and said, what do we really need? The idea of a community center kind of came up and a little bit. And when I looked around at other towns that are building community centers, like Sudbury and others, we don't have a community center. Now we do have pieces of that. We have BD that has some parts of indoor recreation. We have Hunt Gym, which has that, and meeting spaces. We have had Harvey Wheeler in the past, which is now being, so, you know, it's a senior center. So we have pieces of that around town. So, and other people have asked me, you know, why don't we have a community center? And I think historically we've managed without it. I know we are going into the strategic planning process now, and I'm very interested in what comes out of that. But this concept's been on my mind for a while. I'm not sure there's anything we need or should do about it for now, but I'm just kind of wondering what others on the commission feel about what they've heard or think about the need for such a center. And the question is, what would a community center be? That's a good question. I think I'd want to look around at other towns because we have pieces of that spread out over town. But clearly, when you get to the winter, you know, other than the senior center, you don't have a lot of places. I'm talking about to gather and meet, and likely recreate, and, you know, maybe rent out space. So I think there are some unmet needs. Again, that'll probably come out of strategic planning, but that's sort of been floating around in my mind. I just kind of want to get that out there.
Right. I'd like to just open it up for quick conversation. If anyone has any points they want to bring up or add to the conversation.
Please don't think you have to. Maybe silence says everything, but I didn't want to start a long conversation about it. But
Paul, I think you bring up a good point, and this is why I think, you know, the work that you and Pete are doing, you know, specifically on the strategic plan, are going to be so helpful to look at all of our assets in front of us to see what's missing and to see where it can be supplemented. And, you know, as we look as a community, what the appetite is for funding, or, you know, how a community center would fit into a capital plan, what is existing, you know, what are plans with buildings like Peabody. Jim had brought that up at a previous meeting. I'm sure there's a lot of plans for Peabody. But I think, you know, it's something to just be on people's minds. Also, as we go into different seasons and we all approach community recreation from different perspectives. So people who have young children, people who participate in the adult sports, people who use the BD Center, people who don't have young children, but, you know, need safe places to walk in the winter, etc. Be helpful.
yeah, and somebody asked me about this, and I actually asked Kate Hodges, you know, how would you go about kind of studying the need? This is before we got into the strategic planning effort. And Kate said, well, and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe go before the select board, and maybe there's a study committee that looks into this and examines that. Now, maybe the strategic planning effort kind of preempts that. I don't know. So, but I do think it needs some thought. Even if something pops out of the strategic plan, we need it. The question is, well, what is it? So maybe we can just leave it there, but I just kind of want to get that out there. That was the main concept in my head. The other one involves more Delia's natural resource activity, and so I don't want to bring that up here.
Okay. Paul, thank you. I think that is a good point. Matt, sorry, you don't have to raise your hand, and your hand blends into your background. So if I don't see it, my apologies. Go ahead, Matt.
Well, I just wanted to say in response to Paul that if the notion of a community center belongs anywhere, I think it would be in this strategic plan for this recreation strategic plan, because it doesn't appear in the comprehensive long-range plan as a objective as things stand right now. And then, you know, when I look at the other strategic plans that we have in town, like the housing production plan and all, it's just not relevant to those. So right. I think that, yeah, if it's going to get on the table, this is the table to put it on.
Agree.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Any other comments or thoughts on this before we move on? Okay, excellent. Let's move to number 7, 2021 field use application update. Anna and Adam, take it away.
Share my screen here. So a meeting ago, we approved the indoor facility fee schedule for 2022. And we had a quick discussion on the outdoor field schedule, fee schedule, excuse me, but then decided to do a little bit more research on youth fees and tournament fees and such. So I'm coming back to you tonight to follow up on that and hopefully approve this document for calendar year 2022. So ultimately, I'm just going to skip back down to the fee schedule. It's the most important. I met with the Public Works team, Aaron and Eric, as well as the Parks team through the Facilities Department. And come to find, the Public Works Department receives about $50,000 a year from CC at Play to help support the, just admitting somebody, to help support the expenses associated with field maintenance, which I was not aware of. Then they also receive about $8,000 from Concord Carlisle Youth Baseball. So they didn't feel that it would be a good idea to charge the youth groups for field use, which makes total sense now that I know they receive some funding from those groups. So I removed the charging of youth sports from tier 2. They will not be charged for outdoor field or court usage. That includes the turf fields, which from what I manage schedule wise is the Doug White fields behind the front of the school. And we did decide to leave the adult sports groups though. The adult sports groups in town have also not had a fee associated with the rental. And Public Works agreed that that would be appropriate to charge them hourly rate. So we left adult sports here. Everybody, regardless of group type, including the youth sports groups, does get a light fee that is billed through the school department. And that's a standard rate that they set and communicate to me annually. And everything else on here is the same. So we have the next tier down is for Concord-based nonprofit groups, then Concord-based nonprofit or for-profit, I'm sorry, non-Concord based nonprofit or for-profit organizations, including the private schools. And then we added the single or multi-day tournaments by Concord-based organizations and non-Concord based organizations. Public Works agreed that it would be smart to do that and to communicate with them if we do get requests for tournaments, as they're the ones that would staff the fields to make sure that they're lined appropriately, have some extra employees to empty trash, manage the restroom facilities, things like that. So we also added, what was it? Jim had brought up a good point to, formally notate that we do not rent out pavilions or playgrounds, that we do not book the fields at the elementary or middle schools, and that we do not book memorial fields. So we added those bullets in as well. The rates that I have here are based on research that was done, reaching out to over 100 different recreation departments, hearing back from over a dozen, looking at their fees that they're charging on synthetic as well as grass fields. And so this is very comparable to what many other municipal recreation departments are charging for field rates right now. So they're not just throw them out there rates. These are researched rates that are within comparable communities' current hourly allocations. So open to feedback, questions, anything, and if possible, I'd love to get a vote of support tonight to approve this so we could implement it for the 2022 calendar year.
Anna, could you estimate how much total revenue over the year that this would be likely to yield based upon patterns of usage?
Sure. I mean, right now, and I could pull up our software system quickly, but there isn't a ton that comes in because a lot of the usage is by the youth sports groups, which is where we saw an opportunity area before I found out that they are paying that $50,000. So I'd say this past field season, so, April through, we finally closed fields mid-November. We probably had less than a dozen outside groups request field space, typically one night at a time for, a program that was canceled at another town's facility. So hypothetically, we're looking at definitely less than $5,000 a year in revenues for field usage from outside groups.
Okay, and then is there a sense of what CC at Play would have to pay if they were paying a la carte here, as opposed to just making a donation once a year?
I don't have that exact number. I did track the exact usage hours that each of those youth sports groups accumulates on each field, and some of them, such as youth soccer, is a couple thousand hours a season that they're using on the fields. So typically, because of those high usage amounts, they're not hourly charges, they're per player charges. So it would have been a different model if we were to charge those groups. So I don't have an estimate of what we would be bringing in, as I don't know the roster sizes of the youth sports groups right now, but that's typically how municipalities do it, is they charge a per person rate per field instead of an hourly rate.
Okay, because while on the one hand, $50,000 does sound like a substantial sum, and indeed may be, it also is possible that maybe it's, right around what it would cost otherwise, or maybe even less. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and that's something when I talk to Public Works that I encourage them to explore. Again, I was thinking that we'd create this kitty that they could use for maintenance. Since I was booking it out, we weren't looking to really recoup any of these funds in the recreation revolving account. And they didn't seem necessarily concerned of what they were receiving being too little. So it's kind of back in their court if they'd like to explore increasing those rates, but I could certainly work with them, to look at roster rates if that's the detail that they'd like to go towards.
Pete, you had your
And I'm
hand.
just curious, so I'm sorry, spoke out of order.
I just know Pete had his hand up earlier, so I just
Go
wanted.
ahead.
Yeah, I just wondered whether any group has ever objected to the amount of money they've been requested to pay.
There have been no fees before. So this spring we implemented this plan to get it started. But we have never charged groups, internal or external, for field use.
Okay. Thank you.
Which, when asked by other rec departments if that was, common, they said absolutely not. So we've been very generous.
Yeah, okay.
Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking for the raise hand. I don't even have that
You
on.
don't have to raise your hand. I just saw that Pete had his hand up at one point, so I just wanted
No,
to.
I was looking for the Zoom raise hand. I can't find
It's
it.
under reactions, and then there's a little raised hand at the bottom when you click on it.
I'm on some of these different virtual platforms. They're all different. My question on managing this process. So we're not charging individuals or even small groups of individuals. So these rentals would take precedence. So how would this be managed if somebody reserves tennis courts for a certain period and there's public playing on that, individuals? How is that managed?
Sure. So again, before I took over the recreation director role, there was no public notification of rentals or reservations. I've since utilized our registration software, MyRec, to make all facilities that the recreation department schedules visible to the public. So they could go to our website at any point in time and see rentals or reservations on any of these listed facilities. I've received really good feedback from the community about that, and they've seemed to have found their way around our website to learn about that. Otherwise, it was an Excel document that was sent amongst the youth sports groups before. So there really was no notification to the public on facility usage. I manage all of this. Adam will be managing it while I'm gone. And the conversation for field usage starts in February and continues with those youth sports groups until fields close in the fall. We work closely with the Concord Carlisle High School athletic director, Aaron Jonkis, as well. The high school does come down to Emerson Park and utilize the tennis courts, the track, and the soccer fields during those sports seasons. And so I coordinate with Aaron as well. It takes quite a bit of time to get this all coordinated.
Have there been any conflicts between organizations and the general public for the use of these fields and courts? Because I imagine that there could be people playing pickleball, and then a group comes in and says, we have this rented for the next hour. Has there been conflicts?
Sure. I've only heard once or twice of something like that happening. We do try and put schedules up at the courts. We're working with Public Works to update the signage that goes at all the courts and fields as well, to better notify the public of the process. At the Emerson tennis courts, for instance, we use court number 5, which is closest to Stowe Street for our teaching and our lessons. And we have signage on that court that says what our teaching times are and when we typically do that. So we try and give people as much of a physical heads up at the sites as we can.
Good. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome. Good question.
Anna, I thank you for reaching out to Public Works because I think we do have that tricky thing where we're just a rec. It's a rec department and not Parks and Rec. So I just want to say I encourage and I'm happy to hear of the increased communication between you and Aaron about these matters and others that involve maybe some of the involvement of youth sports in other processes with specifically just with parks and not necessarily with rec, because it's important for us to have that larger view of what's going on. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
So with that in mind, if there's no more discussion, I'd like to propose a vote to approve this application and rental fee schedule for 2022.
And my hope would be, I'm going to work with Adam to create a calendar for these rec commission meetings where monthly we have different things we have to do each year. So in December every year, we'll look at this form again, make sure fees are still relevant, review how it went the year before. So this would be an annual review sort of document.
Great idea. And kudos to Jim, who mentioned in one of our previous meetings, just pacing that throughout the year so that these organizations aren't caught off guard by fees. That was for indoor fees. So thank you, Jim. Can I get a second to approve this?
Second.
Okay, great. Thank you. Roll call. Casey Atkins, yes. Paul Bohm?
Yes.
Pete Funkhauser?
Yes.
Jen Lutz?
Yes.
James Howard?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Moving on to department updates. Beatty and Hunt, you guys may go in whatever order you would like.
So I'm going to kick it off for Beatty. We have one more vote of support that we need from you all tonight, and it has to do with our membership fees at the Beatty Center. So let me just get the screen up. Here we go. Okay. So what we're going to talk about briefly tonight is the Beatty Center's monthly and annual membership fees. What you see here, and I'm sorry, it doesn't all fit on the screen well, but we have the rates listed of the BD Center from opening 2006 to 2021. You can see from 2019 to 2021, rates have not increased at all. And even prior, 2018, they have not increased at all. So we did some review of that and looked at, the effects of a $1 through $10 per month increase across these membership categories, and are proposing a $2 increase per month across, again, those categories. So that ends up being a $24 effect on our members over the course of a year, with the new advertised rates looking like this. I have information over here, go down, that would speak to what that would look like over the course of a year. Ultimately, at our current registration numbers per the categories listed here, we'd be looking at about a $15,000 annual increase in revenues. This fiscal year specifically, we wouldn't roll out these rates until February of 2022, which leaves us with about 5 months left in the fiscal year. So we'd be looking at about a $6,000 to $7,000 increase of revenue if numbers were to stay exactly the same, which we anticipate them to rise and flux over the course of the year. So we see it as a very reasonable increase. Again, minimum wage has been increasing over the last few years. We have not increased rates in any capacity, including swim lessons, group fitness, things of that nature. And it's time to explore that. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have about those numbers.
I have a question.
Paul found his emoji first, so.
I should be rewarded for finding that emoji.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, so you're increasing all of these rates each $2 a month?
Yes.
As opposed to a percentage?
Yes.
Can I ask what the rationale? I can see a percentage for, it hits some of these categories a little bit harder, 2%, 4% than others. Why not just a flat percent? Have you explored that?
Honestly, no, I didn't look at the percentages. The BD Center, as we all know, is a difficult operation. The budget, the enterprise fund that it functions within is challenging. Our membership over the last few years and since opening has fluctuated significantly, from about 1,200 family memberships when we first opened to about 500 now. So we don't want to raise prices to a point where people feel that it's truly going to impact their family budget. We want people to be able to continue to come to the BD Center, to not think twice about a $2 a month increase, in their membership. And we just thought that doing it by the dollar versus a percent would be least impactful and most explainable in common terms to folks if they did ask or notice. All of these people that you see here either pay upfront or have that monthly reoccurring charge. So when someone sees their credit card right now, for a monthly fee of $82, and then that jumps to $84, we're hoping that it wouldn't have a significant impact on that person's monthly budget and they would continue to be a member with us. So we wanted to keep it affordable and reasonable without really rocking the boat.
I appreciate that. And I agree. It just seems more equitable to do it as a percentage because it hits these categories from, I think, 1 or 2% to like 0.01%. And
I see.
The only thing that jumps out with that, Paul, would be related to, historically we've done this, the dollar amounts throughout, and with it didn't want to get into someone's account being, $94.25. So all of that is a little bit confusing, but right, it does, bring up some equity issues at times, but, as you look at the pattern and also just the industry as far as what we're up to, this one is pretty consistent with what's going on.
Pete, you also have your hand up, and I will just remind folks that when you're done, you do need to take your hand down, just to FYI. Well
Okay.
done, Paul.
My question is that earlier on the comparison of summer camps, we saw interesting figures showing what we charge versus similar operations. Have you done that for the BD Center and similar types of facilities?
No, there really is not another municipal recreation department that oversees a facility like the BD Center. There just isn't, which again puts us in a really unique position where, we're kind of asked to run a public facility under municipal law as if it's a private entity. And that's very challenging. So private clubs, have a lot more flexibility than we do. And so it's very hard to compare us to other groups.
I agree with that, Anna. I'm wondering if maybe having a snapshot of the Thoreau Club with the context would be helpful or misleading. So I know that you guys have looked into that comparison in the past.
And their amenities are very different, with indoor and outdoor. So more of a pool club concept in the summertime, as well as different sorts of fitness facilities. So while in the same industry, the club is a very different space than the BD Center.
That is very fair. Other thoughts from commission members? Anna, would you like a vote this evening, I believe, to approve this adjustment? And
yes, so we're looking for a vote of support to increase, again, those membership categories by $2 per month, effective February 1st, 2022. That allows us ample time to notify members that a change will be coming. We plan to offer a promo in January if this is approved that encourages people to join, at these past year's rates. So yes, that's our rollout plan, and that's what we would love to gain your support in doing tonight.
okay. I've made most of the motions. If anyone wants to make a motion to approve this, they may, or I will just make a motion to approve it and seek a second.
I'll second.
Great. Roll call. Casey Atkins, yes. Jen Lutz.
Yes.
Jim Howard.
Yes.
Paul Bohm.
Yes.
Pete Funkhauser.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very, very, very much.
Could I make just one observation
Please.
here? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to thank you for not changing the 80 and over
Yes.
cost.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be touching any of the charter member rates in any of the categories. We wouldn't be touching the 80 plus rates. We wouldn't be touching the school year or town employee rate. So this is really just for our monthly reoccurring.
Well, I'm thanking you for the 80 and over, because part of the deal when this went together was that 80s would be free. And the town backed out of that some years ago, and without an acceptable explanation. But I think it's appropriate that now that you got them up to $199, you'll leave it there.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
no plans on adjusting that one.
So I don't want to cause
Rest
any
easy.
trouble. I won't go into it now, but it could be a source of trouble for us in the future. So it's best to leave a sleeping dog lie, as they say.
Yeah, Pete, we've got a lot of people that are 78 and 79. They can't wait for the next 2 years to happen. So we're on board.
Yeah.
The next piece that we want to make everybody aware of is our 10 punch pass. That's also not considered a membership. So right now we sell a 10 punch pass for $150. That equates to $15 per visit. Our drop-in daily fee is $20 per visit. We're proposing to increase our 10 punch pass rate to $200 to align with that daily rate, primarily to encourage people to consider a 3-month membership or higher. We sell quite a few of these 10 punch passes. As you can see in FY21, even a slow year, we sold over 300, bringing in about $50,000. This year already, we've sold 228 with about $34,000 in hand. So we're hopeful that we'll continue to sell these passes, but would like to increase it to this rate, again, to try and encourage those that continue to purchase these 10 punch passes to join our facility as a member. So we would be looking for a vote of support to increase the 10 punch pass rate from $150 to $200, again, effective February 1st.
Any comments, thoughts?
So I'm interpreting this as a disincentive to stay on the 10 punch pass and an incentive to join full membership, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I
we
think,
don't
I
want
think that's the goal. Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
part of it too is that, so the $200 rate for the 10 punch pass is still cheaper than an adult 3-month membership. So
Yeah.
that was kind of when we were talking about it was, we're not deterring people from still getting that pass. It's just showing them that there's still value in it, but also I feel like we're selling ourselves short by you could come into the facility and pay a $20 day pass, but you could get the 10 punch pass for $15 a visit. So we just thought if we made that even, it would help kind of still have value in it, but also push people towards the membership anyways.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Pete,
Is there any reason why there can't be a 1 or 2 punch or 5 punch pass for Concordians who have family members come and visit for a while and they want to go to the gym a few times?
So we do have the daily pass.
It's $20.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this is the next step up from just purchasing 1. You can purchase 10.
Okay.
And the passes don't expire, right?
Andy, can you speak to that?
Yeah, they've gone a cycle of dates. Originally, when they came out, they were going for a year. We went down to 6 months. Now we're currently at 3 months in regards to the passes.
Okay. I was going to say, Pete, you could save them for next year, but maybe that's not the case. Okay.
okay, if there is no other discussion, I will make a motion to approve this fee increase of $50 to the BD 10 punch pass to $200. Can I get a second? Excellent. Thank you, Paul. Casey Atkins, yes. Paul Bohm,
Yes.
Pete Funkhauser,
Yes.
Jen Lutz,
Yes.
Jim Howard.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So
Great.
what's next? Do we have more BD or are we moving on to Hunt?
I have one more BD thing that we need your vote of approval. And with your votes of approval, my next step is these changes get sent over to Deputy Town Manager for her review and approval as well. So the last thing that we are proposing to update is our personal training rates. We currently sell 1, 5, and 10 session packages for members of the BD Center or non-members. The sessions are only sold in 60-minute increments. And the unit price, as you can see, while higher for a non-member, it doesn't actually motivate people to purchase the highest package as it's the same unit price as purchasing a 5 punch package. In speaking with our trainers and getting feedback from them, as well as looking at what our customers are asking for, we're proposing new packages again, starting February 2022. So right now, our trainers, when they're very busy, which is happening more frequently, they're booked back to back. When we book a 60-minute session, they're not leaving themselves any time between sessions to clean spaces, prepare for the new client, things of that nature. So we're proposing 55-minute sessions. You'll see the other change that they requested was that after the initial free orientation that anybody can have with a personal trainer, they are required to purchase at least 3 sessions. Personal training, as you could all imagine, benefits a person if they keep with it, if they go back and keep learning more and work with trainers. So for those that were purchasing 1 session, we just see an opportunity to encourage them to come back for more and to start at 3 sessions. We're keeping the unit price the same, and then we're tiering it. So the best bang for your buck would be purchasing a 10 session at $50 a session for $500. And that goes the same on the non-member tiering. The other thing that the trainers asked for was half-hour sessions. So they have some members right now that are purchasing those 60-minute sessions, but they really can only withstand about 30 minutes of personal training. So the trainers then are left to track their 1-hour sale over multiple days or multiple weeks, depending on how frequently this client would come in. So we'd like to propose 25-minute packages as well. Again, in the 3, 5, or 10 session sizes. We have the unit prices aligning, so it is more beneficial to get the 55-minute packages. But again, if somebody only wanted to purchase 25 minutes at a time, this allows them to do that. So we just thought it was time, to get that feedback from our trainers, to look at what our members are requesting when they do purchase sessions. And this is the model that we came up with. We would like to roll this out on February 1st, along with those new membership rates.
Anna, can you tell me, I think they had their hands up before I
Go
started.
ahead, Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
Go ahead, Paul.
No, just a question, rationale. For the 10 sessions, going to 55 minutes, that's the only one you're dropping in the unit price. The other 3 sessions, 5 sessions remain the same.
Correct.
Why dropping the, why don't you leave the 10 the same as well?
Because then we'd have to increase we want it to be tiered to motivate people to buy that highest package. But we didn't want to, we sell more of the smaller packages than the 10 punch package right now. So we didn't want to deter those that have budgeted that $60 per package. So we left those the same. Again, personal training is an area that has not hit budget goals in the last few years. So we don't want to necessarily, significantly increase our prices. We just want to make packages more attractive to potentially current members and current clients purchasing more, or new clients to come in and give it a whirl.
No, I was just looking at the unit price for the 10 sessions going to 50 versus 55 before. So that's the only one you're dropping, the unit price.
We're also cutting 5 minutes a session.
Yeah, and Paul, right? Yeah, and just to cover on that, we currently have quite a few, we'll say more than half of the clients right now are really breaking up their sessions into half-an-hour increments, and not getting the value of the warm-up and the cool-down and the discussions that are also important with a personal relationship with a trainer. So there is some hopefully added value that will come everyone's way when they get to those 60-minute sessions or those 55 now in regards to just quality of that experience.
Okay,
It's a good point, Paul.
Pete,
Yeah. My observation, since I'm at the BD Center about 3 times a week, is that there's a lot of people working with trainers who don't seem to spend an hour with that trainer. The time spent is more like half an hour. These are people who get tired out or their patience runs out or whatever. So I think it's really a great idea to introduce the 25-minute session. I think that that's helpful, and it may actually attract more people who say, gosh, I don't want to go for a whole hour of that. I'm not ready for that. So congratulations. We'll see how it goes, but it looks like a good idea to me.
Thanks for that feedback, Pete. We're optimistic that some of these new programs that we're going to roll out are going to be pretty impactful and appreciated.
I will echo, I think this looks good. And I also appreciate the incentive to get people to buy in bulk, basically, and sort of save on that unit price, but get them in the door for a 10 rather than a 5. So I appreciate the clearly a lot of work was done to pull these numbers out. Other discussion, any other questions from commission members? Okay, I'm going to make a motion to approve the new training rates for the BD Center for February 2022. Could I get a second? Excellent.
Second.
Thank you, Pete. Casey Atkins, yes. Pete Funkhauser,
Yes.
Paul Bohm,
yes.
Jen Lutz,
Yes.
Jim Howard.
Yes.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks, everyone. And I am done talking for tonight. So thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Anna. Let me run with a little bit more with BD along this personal training route. We are in a promotion period right now that started November 1st, so we're about halfway through it. We're doing 10% off for existing clients and 15% off for new clients. We've got 26 of the existing clients, resonating with some new packages now, and only 4 on the 15%. But again, those are new people in the door, and with it, hopefully, we build long-term relationships with them. Just want to cover the gamut of some activity. We've got a winter vacation program that's brand new to us, that's starting up with our new aquatics director. And with it, we've got some good attendance. We've got about, we'll say 45 kids doing a program between December 27th and 30th. So that little lag time between, we'll say, our fall programming and our winter programming, we're filling that gap. We've got a volunteer, we've got a college kid engaged, we've got a high school kid engaged, we've got one of our talented swim instructors. So looking forward to sort of setting the tone with this winter program camp and running with something more so in the summertime as well, as we have a facility that's available but can meet sort of the summer camp need approach, and we haven't done enough of that. Along the summer line, we are putting together a triple play package in regards to membership, connecting our 3, let's say, aquatics facilities together, White Pond, Emerson Pool, and the BD Center. Something that will give residents/non-residents a cost savings if they join all 3. Also give them an opportunity to get in line for the swim lessons that will be happening at those locations. So that'll be rolled out, I think, February 9th, as we put out, we'll say, the summer applications for people to go to those different spots. That element is also in our winter brochure. Winter brochure goes out to mailboxes, Concord and Carlisle, beginning of next week, I believe is the timeline. And again, most of the sign up is, starts on December 8th with members on our front, and then December 15th with non-members. Along those lines, there's going to be some expansion at Emerson Pool, adding swim lessons for the first time this coming summer. It'll sort of follow the camp day, be a couple different elements as far as timing, and with it. Just utilize that nice resource we have, staff already in place and available. Hopefully kids from camp just sort of say, yep, I want to get an additional swim time and improve my skills. So a good little program that's running and will be advertised soon. Next element out there, just want to touch on our parking lot. We've been having some issues with the high school across the street and just their students parking there too much. Been working with the principal, the Concord Police Department. We've recently done some parking permits that sort of identify who's who when it comes to the academic day. You know, slowly making some progress, and with it, you know, just trying to, again, try to get that group to be respectful of our space, trying to make sure that our memberships have parking that's, we'll say, convenient. Work in progress, but it's trying to make some gradual steps there. Another element on the plate is just cleaning of locker rooms.
Pete had a comment. Pete has his hand up, Andy.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Andy, we have a lot more spaces over there than we need. Why don't we rent them out to high school students for $1,000 a year? 20 spaces would bring in $20,000. It'd be a good source of income, and there's plenty of parents who would be willing to foot that expense, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's certainly on the plate. We did it a little bit when they had some parking issues over there and they needed some spots. I know since they painted the roads, they've seemed to meet some of their needs, but right now, since they don't rent spaces to juniors, we'll say, it's like, okay, you know, could we capture that a little bit? Yes. You know, do we have 10 spaces at the very end of our lot that we might be able to use in the future? Definitely considering it. So thank you. On the cleaning side, you know, we did adjust our Compass cleaning service contract to, we'll say, better meet our needs in regards to pricing, be smart in regards to staffing. We ran into a couple issues in regards to, okay, can we get into the locker rooms as well as we want to? So we've got a piece in place with Compass and support from their staff and our staff to get into the women's locker rooms at least one point during the day and just be helpful on that. So trying to listen to our membership feedback, trying to be smart in regards to, you know, how we present a clean building, pay the bills as well. But it's, again, a little bit of a work in progress as we're getting busier and busier. Just to highlight one last point as far as numbers, you know, we had that great addition of after-school staff coming our way, which was about 29 staff members, which was great. But we're real close to meeting our membership numbers that were in place right before the pandemic. So with it, if we're able to, you know, sort of build on the momentum of, we'll say, some cold weather and people wanting to come inside and get some quality programming and a quality facility, we hope to get sort of, you know, back to where we started, we'll say in February. So that's a good little work effort, we'll say, by the staff at BD, a good little nod from the public as far as us doing some good things. So thank you for your support as you, you know, trumpeted, we'll say, the good news that goes with the BD Center, because people are listening and it's been nice.
Thank
That's a
you.
wrap.
Okay, do we have a hunt, Jim? The tree lighting is coming. The tree lighting is coming.
Yes, that was actually part of my update. So we'll get started. Andy already discussed the brochure will be out next week at people's doorsteps, which is exciting, has all of our programs for the winter and also starting to talk about summer. So as Andy mentioned, winter programs registration opens on the 8th of December, and all of our camp school age for 22-23 and all of our aquatics facilities registration will be open on the 9th of February. So we're working with the team here to kind of get that ready to go and try while it's on my brain, while I'm not, well, Anna's still here, I have a chance to think about it. So there's that. In regards to program specific updates, so in regards to childcare, the childcare department recently actually got involved with the story trees. If anybody's familiar, in the Concord Museum, The carousel program did one, and also Marty did one for Hunt, and it was really, really cool to see. We posted some pictures on Facebook. Speaking of that, I've kind of charted Hunt's kind of marketing side of the piece. So moving forward, the hope is that there'll be one piece of marketing material that's going to be offered on our Facebook and Instagram page that will encompass BD as well. But the goal is to create a solid marketing plan so we continue to push our programs, so we can get, continue to grow our enrollment numbers and memberships. So that's childcare updates. In regards to summer camp, we talked about the registration dates. The only big updates to summer camp is that this year, so for those that had kids, if you've had them in our CIT program, in the past, it was only 1 week. And Emily, who coordinates all the summer camp programming, we sat with her and talked about it. And we wanted to create some semblance of continuity to be able to build skills a little bit more. Because CIT is meant to be less of a, you're not babysitting kids. You're trying to teach them skills so they can become a counselor. So the program is being expanded to a 2-week program this summer, just kind of the new updates with summer camp there. And obviously she's ramping up to get ready for all that fun stuff in the summer. In regards to special events, as Casey said, we've got this Sunday, we have the tree lighting and the parade. The tree lighting, before the parade itself, there's going to be a bunch of businesses in the area that will be open to do activities. We have Magic 106.7 coming to play some music, and they're going to be giving out eggnog from New England Dairy. There's a lot of great options. The map to the activities are on our Facebook page if you're curious. Also, after that event, we have in January, we have the New Year's Boredom Buster, which will be a kind of a kit that you can take home with your families. That'll be for purchase come November 3rd, yesterday, actually, in my brain. And then following January, we have Winter Wonderland on the 12th of February. We're working hard to get that kind of off and running. Same with the Shamrock Ball, which is in March. Those tickets go on until February 1st. In regards to sports and other programs, so our ski program, both Neshoba and I'm blanking, Wachusett are full and on a wait list, which is great. That's awesome. Youth Basketball League is launching in a couple of weeks, the first week of January. We're looking for coaches for 4th and 5th graders. So if you know anybody interested in coaching, send them our way. Most of our sports programs, again, in the winter, will be opening up registration on the 8th of December. We are looking to offer pickleball lessons. Again, we've seen a lot of interest from people who have done pickleball lessons in the fall to do them in the winter, so we're working on that. We just finished up a session with our pickup basketball men's and women's, which was good. We're looking to offer that again in the winter. We have an adult volleyball program that's maxed out. And then also I mentioned earlier, but White Pond memberships will be coming out shortly. And we're in the process of getting all that stuff on the books and ready to go so people can register for it. That'll be a busy day on the 9th when all that stuff opens up, camp, school, after school and stuff. So we're really excited about that. And then also just preparing for Anna's departure. So it's the time's looming. So just trying to get my feet still continue to planted and working on kind of getting everything ready to go. So.
Excellent. I love the map, by the way, was great in terms of knowing like where the hot chocolate stations are and stuff like that. Very helpful. Great idea.
I'll pass the message to Marty. She did it. And I as a very visual person, I was like, this is awesome. I know exactly where to go. So.
And Casey, as I understand, will your boys be joining Santa at the tree for the official lighting?
They will. They're very excited. I will be interested to see what the pictures look like since they will only, I believe it's called dab in official photos. So
perfect.
Yes, we are very excited for that.
I'm sure Santa knows how to dab as well.
I don't doubt it. Adam, a quick thought on basketball coaches. When I was in high school, I coached 4th and 5th grade basketball. It's not on my agenda this year, but I don't know if some of the students who are in counselors in training, if any of them are interested in doing coaching. I mean, I don't know if that gets you into dicey territory, but perhaps that's something to look into.
Yeah, I'll check with Emily with CITs, and then DJ who runs the sports clinics. Maybe that's something that we can look into for volunteers. I remember doing it in high school too to get my community service component. So it's a great way to kill two birds with one stone, so to speak. So
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you for the update. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adam. Looking here, we have other facilities. Anna, anything you want to add there? Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, reports from liaisons. Matt, select board.
Well, I guess you may have heard that the town manager has resigned effective the end of the calendar year. So that is big news. And in terms of other things that would be more relevant to the Recreation Commission, I'm struggling right now to think about. I hadn't prepped for this, so I'm trying to think of things
So
that would.
you really need to push getting people on the personnel board.
Yes, well, in fact, at the during my liaison report at the last select board meeting, I did make a point of stating that, that this was a critical need and that it was probably the most important new volunteer position that we have, in the town right now. So that was the main thing.
Okay, great. Let me scan here. Amrith Finance Committee.
Okay, I'm sorry, a quick question for Matt. Given the resignation, has it been determined who assumes that position as January 1st, or is that still in discussion?
That's still in discussion. In fact, we as a select board have not been able to discuss that yet, just legally, based upon the current circumstances. So yet to be determined.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I should also mention that we do have a special town meeting coming in January. You may have gotten your special town meeting warrant in the mail. There's just going to be one item on the agenda, which is the debt exclusion for the new middle school. And the middle school building committee is currently working on value engineering elements. And I guess there is one aspect of that that is relevant to the Recreation Commission in a way, because one of the biggest cost saving items is potentially to, rather than moving and disposing of soil off-site, is to actually maintain it on-site. And that means probably over a field during the construction process. And then reusing that soil, to fill rather than buying new soil. So you can imagine the budget originally said, hey, we had to pay to dispose of all the soil. And then we would have to pay again, a year and a half later to get a bunch of soil and fill in. So instead, the idea is to store it locally. We will be discussing that tomorrow morning and finding out, just how much we would keep there. But it could have an impact on recreation fields in town, the schools fields, that could have a knock-on effect on other facilities. So just to be aware.
Thank you, Matt. And for those of you who haven't received your warrant, it looks like this. Very easy to access, great reading, highly recommend it.
It's a quick read.
I love my town warrant. Paul, would you like to discuss CPC updates?
Yeah, CPC committee is well in the effort of evaluating the current applications. We had a public meeting, as I mentioned yesterday. Apropos of the reason, there were a couple of controversial projects, and one of those projects, the residents said that there wasn't enough consultation. But fortunately, during the whole process, the more and more residents became knowledgeable and involved. So I think ultimately there's a lot of good public process there. I don't know, what happened several years ago on that point, but I think that was successful in a controversial project and getting everybody involved and all the information out. That's the Assabet Love project, where there's open space and housing in an area where the residents don't want any housing, but the town isn't going to buy it just for open space. So if that project doesn't go forward for CPC, is going to buy it, and then there'll be a lot of housing. So all those trade-offs really came up, and it was a very good exchange with the public, I thought. But in general, there are 12 applications, 5 of which have recreation in there. Now, recreation is broadly defined. So I know we've in the strategic plan, Anna's going to cover more than the recreation department activities, but recreational facilities in general and assets across the town. So there's about $1 million worth of projects that have either sole recreation label on them or shared recreation label with open space. 4 categories in CPC, recreation being one of them, open space being another. And so we'll see what happens. We'll be voting on those in January, then goes to FinCom, Select Board, Town Meeting, and interesting process. Thanking others for volunteering me. I think by the end of 3 years, though, I will have, my hair will turn even whiter than it is now. Or I will lose my hair more than it is now.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for your work on the CPC. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, next up we have public input, but we did move that to the front of the meeting. And
So, Casey, sorry. You want an update from FinCom? Well, I have a question for you. So that's okay. No, there was a question for Paul had a question, so I just kept quiet. Are there specific projects that Rec is putting forward for either capital funding requests or anything like that? Because we have a meeting tomorrow where one of the things which I know we're going to be talking about are the input or the responses from the guidelines process. Is there something which you have, which you've submitted, which you can send to me? Either if you want to run through it now, that's quick, I can write it down, or if you can just email it to me, that'd be great.
You talking about the CPC application?
No, sorry, I was asking.
Oh, I'm sorry, Anna, I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
to Anna or Casey. Yeah.
Yep, so Emrith, I can email you those documents. We have submitted capital improvement project requests for the next 5 years. For the Hunt side of the operation, it includes resurfacing the Emerson tennis courts right in front of the building. I don't have that number right in front of me, but I can get it for you in a couple
Don't worry
minutes.
about it. If you can email it to me, that'd be great.
Sure.
And Paul, I will ping you about the CPC thing as well. I'm interested in that project, not because I'm on FinCom, but because I live nearby. So
I know it's getting a lot of attention.
that's all I had, Casey. Thanks.
thank you, Amrith. Sorry for skipping you there. Any other, sorry, I'm toggling back and forth between screens. I have no more liaisons listed on here. Anna, we have our next meeting to discuss. So pick a date
Yep.
for.
Adam, you want to, so
Yes.
I will, this presumably will, this better be my last, I better not be here still on December 28th. So Adam will be overseeing the next few months. So I'm going to let him take this piece.
Yeah, so I just wanted to while it was on my brain, just to schedule the next 3 meetings out. Wanted to get it on our schedules before the holidays get crazy, but also just with Anna gone, just so it's on my calendar, so I can make sure that it's booked and that I won't conflict with anything else. So I just proposed, I believe those are the last Tuesdays of the month at 7 o'clock. I guess we definitely obviously need to schedule the next one, but we can just, I guess, approve the other ones too in the process. If it's too far out, that's fine. We can wait until end of December's meeting to schedule them. But I just thought, for my own sake, my own selfish sake, to get them all the next 3 months done. So I'm open to feedback.
Scheduling 3 months out makes great sense. I have some concerns about the 28th of December. I'm I don't know that I would be available, and it's sort of plop in the middle of the two of the holidays. But thoughts to other folks if what your availability is. Perhaps we could move it to like one of the first weeks of January, since we're doing a December 1st meeting, and we could just sort of shift and go towards the beginning of the month. Though Matt, Amrith, and Paul, I know you're getting into a very busy time at that point in the year.
Don't worry about me. I'm just a liaison. If I
I know,
can't
but
make
you're a
it, I'll watch the
parliamentarian.
video.
You're a parliamentarian too. I really appreciate it.
I mean, we
looking-
could just push the first Tuesdays of the month instead. I know, I guess in the past it's been the last Tuesday, but we could do the 4th of January, the 1st of February, and the 1st of March.
So I have CPC meeting on the 4th of January. And not in February on the 15th. And I'm sorry, what were the days you were proposing, Adam?
So I changed it to the 4th. So you said you're busy the 1st of February and the 1st of March. If we did the
Those
first
are-
Tuesdays.
Those are fine. The January 4th one,
Yep.
that, yeah, well, that's a CPC meeting. I can't make that, but I'm just FYI. The February and March ones look good.
Okay, so maybe we the next meeting we do maybe the Monday the 3rd at 7, and then the Tuesdays the February 1st and the March 1st, just so it's on our calendars. And then does the Monday work, Paul, on the 1st? I mean, the 3rd of January?
Happy New Year. Yes, it does.
Perfect. So if there's no objections to at least the 3rd, at least lock that one in, and then if something comes up with the 1st of February, 1st of March, we can change it at the January meeting. But
Yeah, okay.
that's fine if that works for
Good.
everybody.
Jen, Jim, and Pete, any thoughts? Does that work for you guys?
I'm fine with those dates.
Yeah, same. The late end of December wouldn't have worked for me.
Yep, those days work for me as well. Thanks.
Great.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Adam. Okay. That is the end of our agenda. We did not make it in under 2 hours. I'm sorry. I say that to the former chair, who is very good at keeping things on time. And Anna, is there anything else? You good?
I'm good. Thank you all.
All right, I
There we
will say
go.
on behalf of the commission, Anna, good luck. Congratulations. Well, and hope it is easy and wonderful.
Thank you. Me too.
Best
Stay
wishes.
Yes. With that, I will make a motion to close the meeting.
I will second that motion.
Casey Atkins, yes. Paul Bohm,
Yes.
Jen Lutz,
Yes.
Jim Howard.
Yes.
Last but certainly not least, Pete Funkhauser.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all, and have a good month and
Thanks,
festive.
guys.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Let's have a
Happy
holiday.
Christmas to you all, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you.